Hello and welcome back to the PSD to HTML flat design build. In this lesson, we're going to tackle the HTML for the footer of our document. So the footer consists of 3 columns of equal width. The third column has a different background color, but other than that, the columns are pretty much set up the same way. And then for each of our columns, we just have some very simple HTML we need to do. So we have an unordered list here for the from the blog section. We have another unordered list we're going to use for our social media icons here. So we'll create an unordered list, and then in CSS we'll get rid of the bullet points and line them up horizontally instead of vertically. And then for our third item, we have a simple form with just name and email address, input, and then a sign me up button to register for updates. So let's create that in HTML. I'm going to go to TextMate, and I've got the Site06 folder open up. All the changes we make in this lesson will be saved in Site06, and we've created our feature services section here, which is that 2-column setup that we talked about in the last video. And in this lesson, we're going to tackle the footer. So we're going to come right after the closing section tag for the feature services and just before the closing section tag for our main content, and we're going to create our footer element. So we'll create our opening footer tag. We'll go ahead and skip a couple lines and put our closing footer tag. And then inside the footer, we're going to create a 3-column setup. So I'm going to create these columns again inside divs. So we'll create a div with a class of column 1/3. Skip a couple lines and put our closing div tag there. And these all have different types of content in it. So we'll just go ahead and copy this and then fill in each one separately. So I'm highlighting the opening and closing div tag for that first column. I'm going to copy that, go to the end and hit enter, paste, enter, paste. So now we have 3 separate divs with a class of column 1/3. And since our third column is going to be styled a little bit differently, I want to make sure we add another class to this third column describing the content of that column. And I'm going to just call it column-registration. So in the first column, if we go back to our Photoshop file, we have a simple unordered list with just 3 titles of blog entries. And so we're going to first use an H2 tag for the from the blog title, and then we'll have an unordered list with those 3 entries. So we'll go back to our code, and inside that first column, again, we'll create our H2 that says from the blog, and then our closing H2 tag. And then after that, we're going to create an unordered list. And I'm going to give this a class of blog-list so that we can style that particular list separately. We'll skip a couple lines and put our closing unordered list tag, and then we'll create our list items. So we want to make sure that these blog titles are links so that we can click on them to actually take us to that blog article. So after our opening list item tag, we need an opening anchor tag. And again, we're not going to create the actual page that it links to in this course. So you would replace this pound sign here with whatever the link is to that page. And then inside that anchor tag, we'll just put the title for our first blog entry here. And let's say we have an article titled Flat Design Here to Stay ? And then we'll close our anchor tag and close our list item tag. Okay, so we'll do that again. Create a list item, an anchor tag with an href of pound. And let's title our second one, Determining Your Audience. Closing anchor tag, closing list item tag. And then let's just copy that and paste it. And the third title here will be something completely unrelated. Han shot first. Okay, so we have that. And let's go on to our second column now. Our second column, again, has our social media icons, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. And we're just going to put that in an unordered list as well. So we'll create an unordered list here. And this time we'll give it a class of social-list. Skip a couple lines, put our closing UL tag. And then again, we're going to have a series of list items with anchor tags, except this time inside the anchor tags, we're going to have an image. So we'll have our first list item, anchor tag, href equals pound, and you would replace that to the link to whatever the Facebook profile of the owner is. And then inside that anchor, we're going to put an image. So image source equals will point to the IMG folder, and inside that folder we have facebook.gif. And then we'll close our anchor tag and close our list item tag. Then I'm going to highlight that line, copy it, paste it 3 times so that we have 4 total items there. Our second one is going to be the Twitter icon, so twitter.gif. Our third one will be google-plus.gif. And our fourth one, youtube.gif. So anytime you're linking to images, it's a good idea to go ahead and check your work, test the website and make sure that they show up all right. So let's save our HTML file there and open up that page in Chrome and scroll down to the bottom just to make sure that all of our images are showing up. And they are, so that's good. So we'll go back to our code and finish up with our third column. So our third column has a very simple contact form in it. And above that form, we're going to have a header. So we're going to use an H2 tag for that. And it's going to say register for updates. So this will just be a little registration form for an email newsletter. And then we'll create a form. So form method equals post, action equals, and I'm just going to leave the action empty. Obviously, this is where you would put a link to your form processor, whatever script is going to be processing this form. But again, we're not making this functional for this course. That's beyond the scope of this course. We're just getting the design in place. So we have our opening form tag here. Let's go ahead and skip a couple lines and put our closing form tag. And then inside the form tag, we'll go ahead and start with our input. And this is going to be for the user's name. So we'll give this an ID of txt name with a capital N. We'll give it a type of text, just a plain text field. And we'll also put a placeholder in there so that your users will know what they need to put in there. So we'll put name, go to the next line and put another input, this time with an ID of txt email. This is where they will enter their email address. So I'm going to give this a type of email because if you use a type of email instead of another type of text, if you're using a mobile phone, especially an iPhone will give you a different keyboard if the user's typing in an email address so that they have easy access to the @ symbol and things like that. So type equals email, and then again, placeholder equals, and I'll just put email@example.org. So there's our second text field. And our third one is going to be a button. So we'll use the button element here. We'll give it an ID of btn register. A class of btn. If you remember, we created an anchor tag before and we made that anchor tag look like a button by giving it a class of btn. So we can use that same btn class to style this particular button. And then inside that button, we're going to put the text sign me up. And then we'll put our closing button tag there. And that takes care of our third column. So once again, we could save that, jump back into our browser and refresh. Scroll down and see our registration form there at the bottom. Now again, this looks nothing like what it's supposed to look like, but we'll get there once we start coding this in CSS, which we're going to get to very shortly. But for now, with everything saved, we'll go ahead and wrap it up and move on with the next video. Thank you for watching.